Before we proceed with the episode, I just want to make something very clear. Some of the points I'll be making in the latter half might seem nitpicky to some people rather than actual critique. Heck, even the main point I'm going to be arguing for can probably be used for any of the franchises I enjoy. You can easily make the same points about Star Wars or comic book movies, or heck, even The Room could potentially have an essay made about that, but certainly not on this network. I will simply be making this specific argument because I have very strong opinions on the franchise in question. Also, I think bullying J.K. Rowling is fun. Good evening, wizards and witches, and welcome to another fabulous episode of Real Talk. I'm your host, Andrew Vick, and we're still here, somehow. We're still here in the studio. Things are kind of looking up, I think. Hopefully. I don't know. We got movies to talk about and not a lot of time, so why don't we just move on to the news segment, What's Popping? Everyone's favorite time in this show, but of course, as we've established in previous episodes, there's no domestic box office, so this is just a clock I have in my house. It broke. It was not broken 5 seconds ago, but the little wheel appears to have come off again. I'm going to need to Gorilla Glue this when I get home later. So that's about it, what I got for that segment. Oh man, this is going to be just a series of me divulging into madness as the semester goes on. So why don't we move on to some actual news, some good news actually. For once, Disney Pixar's Soul has been confirmed to be dropping on Disney Plus later this year, which, thank God someone at Disney has a brain cell. It was confirmed a few weeks ago, or last week, I believe. This film was originally supposed to come out in the summertime, but of course, you know, Corona happened, and then all the movies got delayed, and this one was supposed to come out in November, but then people weren't really sure if it was coming out at all, and it has been recently decided it's just going to be dropped on Disney Plus. No premium. It's not premium. You don't have to pay $30 for this movie, which double thank God that they realized that's a bad idea. So, what is this movie, Soul? Wow, I'm scatterbrained tonight. Soul is going to be dropping December 25th of this year. I'm very excited. Please, Pixar, be good. I know I've picked on you, but please be good. And I suppose it's good that Soul is dropping on Disney Plus because even if they were going to put it in theaters, not a lot of them are open. So it has been confirmed earlier this month that Regal Cinemas is going to be closing down all 536 locations in the United States, which obviously due to COVID, and put it on. Just put it on. It's just a piece of cloth. It's not that hard. Please. I know I said I'm not going to movie theaters anymore, but I'd like to. I'd like to at some point. So just put it on, you fool. But yeah, I presume they were all closed earlier, opened up a little bit because Christopher Nolan's stubborn and wanted Tenet in theaters, and now cases are going up again, and Regal is closed. So that's just currently where we are in life right now. So why don't we move on to the trailer segment of this part of the episode, but I've only got one to talk about because it's the only one that matters right now. Monster Hunter. Let me tell you something about Monster Hunter. This trailer just dropped today, actually. Monster Hunter, for those who don't know, is a video game series from Japan about getting giant swords and being giant fire-breathing dinosaurs to death. I've never played the game. I have no real connection to the franchise, but just watching this trailer, I could already tell that there was so much wrong here. For example, if you go to the next little graphic, for starters, not only do guns not exist in that universe, but even if they did, I'm pretty darn sure that you don't have to look down the scope with your eyes closed. Like, you see that too, right? Which, quite amazing. So, this technical error can probably be attributed by the fact that this film is directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, a name you may recognize for being attached to Hot Garbage. He's directed the first two, no, not the first two, just the first Mortal Kombat movie, all but two of the Resident Evil movies, the first Aliens vs. Predator film, Death Race, that Three Musketeers movie from 2011 you don't remember, and that Pompeii movie from 2014 you don't remember. This movie, even if you go to the next graphic, even stars Mila Jovovich, who played the protagonist in all the Resident Evil movies, which, again, Anderson directed. So from all this information, I'm pretty darn excited. This is the hot garbage that I thrive upon. Like, I just love it when I know a movie is going to be just wonderfully garbage. Even the synopsis, I don't have it written down, but basically, some U.S. Army members get sent through a portal into another world, which is leading them into the Monster Hunter world, which Alvin and the Chipmunks, Smurfs, Sonic the Hedgehog, oh, all fun, all just so fun. Because that is how we want our franchises to be treated. We don't want to be in the franchises to be, we don't want to be in these worlds to start with. We want normal people we don't care about in this world. It is, I really hope, I sincerely hope that Monster Hunter will be a good contender for worst video game movie. So the film is currently slated to come out December 30th of this year, but we'll just have to survive we'll just have to see if any of us even survive to that point. So that's about it for all the news that I currently have for all of you. Why don't we just move on to the real meat of the episode that I know you're here for. Last time on Real Talk, I watched a couple movies, one of which being the first of the Harry Potter films. And I also mentioned my ever-growing disdain for the franchise, and have decided to just formulate all of it into words. Let's just move on into our feature presentation.
You know that magical feeling you get when you and your wizard friends head out for a new adventure at Hogwarts?
Did you know that in 2018, the Harry Potter book series had sold over 500 million books? Now that's a lot of moolah. Ever since the release of the first book in 1997, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, or Philosopher's Stone if you have dental issues, the series had been a smash hit and a cultural phenomenon. It had a massive impact on an entire generation of children, both millennials and zoomers, such as myself. Not to mention the massively successful film franchise that was once the highest grossing movie series in history, but that doesn't last long when you've got Disney bucks biting at your ankles. Don't forget the merchandise, the Halloween costumes, the tie-in video games, and purchasable torture.
Merchandising, where the real money from the movie is made.
But all this success will inevitably lead to backlash and the financial bubble to bursting, leaving the franchise becoming unprofitable. And that backlash shall soon rise up within the form of, well, me. I'm the backlash. Mostly because I'm the only film show on this channel/service, and darn it, I'm going to use my power for good. Today, I'm going to be arguing why we, as a society, should let go of the Harry Potter franchise and leave it to die. This will be segmented into parts, all introduced to my terrible impression of Mr. Plinkett. Number 1. Nothing interesting to explore. For most moviegoers, when Deathly Hallows Part 2 came out in theaters in 2011, it held a grand sense of finality, the likes of which would not be seen in a blockbuster again until 2019's Avengers Endgame. It felt like a great weight had been lifted as this story 10 years in the making had come to a proper conclusion, and it felt good to end there. But we all know that's not exactly where it ended. When a highly successful franchise lays dormant for some time, some executives will always find a way to bring it back to life as a shadow of its former self. Basically, what I'm trying to say is every expansion of the Harry Potter universe in the past 10 years has been a massive flop. Movie-wise, there was the Fantastic Beasts films that started out promising but turned into magical gobbledygook. Crimes of Grindelwald has one of the worst screenplays of all time, and it tries to do too many things at once that the audience just simply won't care about in the end. The scale is far too large for us to care because we've already seen the normal Harry Potter movies and we know the results before they're even written. This is a big problem with prequel movies in general. They want to have some cool imagery for events that happen before a story, but they don't have a good reason to show a story that we know what happens before we've even seen it. If you're going to make a prequel, at the very least, it should provide an expansion of the world or recontextualize events that happen later on in history. Grindelwald just doesn't do that. Now, going forward in time doesn't help either, because then you end up writing yourself into a corner because you need a story worth telling in order to hook in audiences. The Cursed Child doesn't do it because it focuses on Harry's dumb kids who go time traveling and mess up everything that has ever happened. Yes, that is something that actually happens. Do you expect me to believe that after Harry spends a good amount of time as a teacher during Order of the Phoenix that he just goes on to become a cop? Also, those Pottermore facts that keep getting released are just embarrassing. Remember when JK said that wizards used to poop on the floor of Hogwarts and then made them invisible? Yikes.
Trolls. And of course, Fluffy.
Who told you about Fluffy?
Number 2, inconsistent magic. Let's be honest here, the magic in this universe has more to do with bloodlines than even the Force. And yet for some reason, ordinary people can just suddenly get magic powers. Mudblood being a slur in this universe basically confirms that it's all about your genes. Is magic a dominant or recessive trait? Someone make a Punnett square with the likelihood of me having magical children. The spells in this universe are also pretty dumb, and have dumb names too.
Eat slugs.
There's literally a spell called Point Me, I guess. Diff and Do is a diff and don't. And this one over here is literally just delete this. It's hard to make scenes of combat interesting when half the spells being used are the exact same one where the target just insta-dies. There's actually a really good video out there explaining why Avada Kedavra is such a dumb spell. I highly recommend it. Though I guess the names of these spells don't even matter because you can never really be sure how they're even cast. Sometimes you have to say them out loud, other times you can just have your mouth shut and just grunt and the wand just kind of figures it out. Speaking of wands, let's talk about magic items, because those are dumb too. Now, I've been playing a lot of Dungeons & Dragons over the past few years, and I think I know my way around an Amulet of Planes and a Holy Avenger. Hey, fellow TV tenor, Alex Yeager, how do you feel I do as a Dungeon Master? Alright, yeah, that was good, thank you. How on earth is the Sorcerer's Stone even supposed to work? How do you make an elixir of life just with a rock? A flying car seems cool, but I can never really tell if the magical world is in our world or exists within a parallel dimension, so how do you even get away with using that? Oh, and don't forget about Hermione's necklace that is capable of gosh darn time travel. Why would anyone in the universe give such a powerful magical object to a 13-year-old? I wonder if some conductor ever decided to get a smoke and leaned on the wall, but then fell into platform 9 3/4. You can never really tell what does and doesn't exist in the universe.
Lesson number 1, never be late to class. Lesson number 2, keep all chocolate frogs indoors.
What, Chip?
Number 3, the pacing kinda sucks. This one is a bit of a stretch, but I feel like the pacing in this series is always consistently terrible. Every single book/film takes place over the course of an entire year, and that really makes a lot of the events seem slow and unimportant. This is particularly bad in the movie's case because things just tend to happen for no reason. One moment the kids are trying to figure out the plot, but then it skips to wintertime as if to say they literally did nothing until this point in time. And the fact that every bad thing to ever happen in this series happens near the end of the school year is almost comical, with increasing hilarity with each installment. The Death Eaters do not need to stage an entire tournament when their end goal was kidnap Harry Potter. The first film is obviously the worst with this. Remember when Vernon threatened Harry with no meals for a week if anything happened on the zoo trip? Well, after he gets thrown under the stairs, it goes right into the letter sequence with no indication of the passage of time, or even if Harry is suffering from starving. This scene where McGonagall transforms from a cat and scolds Harry and Ron? No real impact on anything. could have cut it right out and gone straight into Snape's introduction scene, which actually had a deleted moment when Snape seems even more intimidating and fuels his red herring later. The impact of Ron insulting Hermione is forgotten almost instantly when it goes right into the troll fight. Heck, I don't even have a good segue to use to get to the next part 4. Joanne is a TERF! This is probably going to be my strongest point, but before we get into the real meat of it, why don't we just start with just kidding Rowling being dumb about her own work. Most of you are probably already aware, but for those who don't, Rowling has made a lot of weird retcons since she first published Deathly Hallows in 2007. One of the first ones was claiming that Dumbledore was gay when there was no evidence of the books themselves to support this. Or how about that time she decided that Anthony Goldstein, a character who is so far in the background that I had to actually Google whether or not he even existed, was of Jewish descent. Look, I even found his Lego minifigure. And if the thought of Emperor Creamy Sheep Palpatine having children was terrifying enough... Oh yeah, Voldemort boned. These are funky in their own right, but it's far less questionable than the stuff that's actually in the books. Ever find it weird that goblins work exclusively in financials and have long, pointy noses? Or how about the fact that one of the few prominent Asian characters in the main story is named Cho Chang? Perhaps you're familiar with the race of elves that wish to be enslaved? Have the alarm bells in your head started ringing yet? Good, because they're about to bust. Over the course of the past 12 months, it's become extremely clear how J.K. Rowling views the transgender community. She's been critical of the term people who menstruate, and for some reason tried to use the defense of being a victim of domestic abuse to justify her transphobia. Yeah, this happened in June. God, it feels like forever ago. She has not backed off this high horse she made herself and continues to retweet posts that sometimes are only subtly transphobic. I bring all of this up not because I find it jolly good fun to bring millionaires down a peg.
Even though I do.
I do this to illustrate the main reason for why we need to let go of Harry Potter. You cannot, in good conscience, get a product related to the franchise because we all know where the money is going. Rowling has absolute creative control over the wizarding world and how it operates. I hope you understand by now why this is not a good thing. Even if she isn't writing something specific, even if they say she is not directly involved with something, the money is surely always going to her. You can't see the next Fantastic Beasts film without feeling dirty, and that's not just because the series is bad. I've seen the trailer for that Hogwarts Legacy game coming out next year. It seems like it'll be an alright game, but I'm not getting it because I know where those $60 are going. Joanne is a financial powerhouse and has a fan base of millions of impressionable youth, but the only way to get anything done is to control which way the money goes. So in the end, do I even have a point with any of this rambling? Yes, and it's stand Rick Riordan and give us a proper Percy Jackson series. We could all use a bit more Greek mythology in our lives.
And now, on with the show.
Hopefully that made some semblance of sense. Yeah, I just have to point out there that this was probably one of the most difficult times I've ever had with Adobe Premiere while making this package, because there was, for some reason, this one specific clip from Prisoner of Azkaban. Every time I had clicked on it, the program would just completely crash. First time it happened, I almost lost 2 hours of progress, and I was so mad, I almost canceled this episode. But I managed to find a previous save of it, and I was able to get it all back. But for some reason, every time I clicked on this one specific clip of Prisoner of Azkaban, whole program just completely shuts down. Now, I could have thrown in a lot more stuff about why we shouldn't support Harry Potter anymore. Fandom, writing, I don't know at this point. Got straws to grab, just neat little straws. Hopefully, I'll find some good little long straws next time. So that's going to wrap it up for our episode tonight. Thank you all so very much for watching tonight's episode. Be sure to follow TV10 on Twitter and Instagram, like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and be sure to check out more exclusive content here on MyTV10. I'm Andrew Vick. This has been Real Talk, and hopefully next time things don't get too spooky. Ooh. 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 This...
but what did Alex really say during that Discord bit from earlier?
Hey, fellow TV tenor, Alex Yeager, how do you feel I do as a dungeon master?
You can't balance an encounter to save your life.
All right, yeah, that was good. Thank you.
I mean, I'm not wrong. I got one shot by a goose, Andy.